Hey guys, welcome back to another video in the Django tutorial series. So in this tutorial I will walk you through the creation of a basic poll application using Django. So this project which I intend to create will consist of two parts. First, a public site that lets people view polls and vote in them, and second, an admin site that lets you add, change and delete polls. So first we are going to install Django. For that I want you guys to open up your command prompt. You can type cmd for shortcut and type pip install Django. Make sure you have a proper internet connection. I already have Django installed, so it says requirement already satisfied. So if you get any error like pip not recognized, I have another video showing you how to fix pip and I will link it on the top over here. And to check if we have installed Django correctly, type the following command: python -m Django --version. And here I am currently using 5.0.6 version of Django. Any 5 version will work properly with this tutorial. So if you are watching this tutorial in the future and you have some other version, probably it's gonna work fine, but if in case anything goes wrong, probably it's because of the differences in version. So that's it. Close your command prompt and let's start creating our project. For that I need you guys to choose a location in your disk. I have chosen this location, so open your command prompt in this location. I will just maximize the size so that it's easier for you guys to see it, and type Django admin start project and the name of the project. So this is the normal syntax for creating a new Django project. We are going to name it polls app and hit enter. So we can see we have created a polls app over here. Great. And one important thing over here is you should avoid naming your project something like Django or test, because naming it Django will conflict with the package Django itself, or test, which conflicts with a built-in Python package. So name it something meaningful rather than Django and test. Don't do that. You might get into an error, you might not, but just avoid doing that. And let's look at the file structure. So we have a manage.py and a polls app folder, and this main polls app you can rename it to whatever you want, doesn't matter. So this outer polls app is basically the root directory, which is like a container for your project, and the manage.py is basically like a command line utility that lets you interact with the Django project in many ways. So it's very useful that we have this manage.py. And this inner polls app is basically the main Python package for your project. Its name is the Python package you will need to use to import anything inside it. And we have an empty init.py file, which is basically if you don't know what an init.py file is, it's basically a file which tells Python this is a Python package, and allow users to import packages from it. And the settings.py file is basically a configuration file for this Django project, and the urls.py file is the URL declaration for the Django projects, a table of contents for your Django powered site. And the ASGI and WSGI, ASGI stands for Asynchronous Server Gateway Interface and WSGI stands for Web Server Gateway Interface. The ASGI basically act like an entry point for ASGI compatible web servers to serve your projects. We are not going to use this in our project. And the WSGI similarly acts as an entry point for web server gateway, WSGI enabled web servers, and we are not going to use this either in our project. So let's get started. So I want you guys to open this folder in your uh, code editor of your choice. I am using Visual Studio Code. If you don't know how to install Visual Studio Code, I will leave a link to it over here. And open your terminal and type the following command: python manage.py run server. Oh, first we need to change directly into our polls app first. Sorry about that. And then type python manage.py run server, and you will see output like this. So our website is working in localhost 8000. Press Ctrl plus click to open the web. And if you see a rocket like this and says congratulations, you have successfully come this far, and I congratulate you on that behalf. If you look closely, we have a warning over here. You have 18 unapplied migrations. Your project might not work properly until you apply the migrations for your apps. So don't worry about it. Ignore the warnings about unapplied database migrations for now. We will deal with the database shortly. Trust me. So if you guys are wondering how this is working, we are basically using the Django development server, which is basically a lightweight web server written purely in Python. The Django development team has included this along with Django so that we developers can develop things rapidly without having to deal with configuring a production server such as Apache until we are ready for production. Now, important thing to note is we should not use this server in anything resembling a production environment. It is purely intended only for use while development and not as a true web server. The Django team focuses only on building web frameworks and not web servers. This is basically a test web server kind of thing, and don't use it in a production environment. And the amazing feature of this web server is that automatic reloading of this web server. The development server automatically reloads Python code for each request as needed. You don't need to restart the server for code changes to take effect. Awesome, isn't it? However, some actions like adding files don't trigger a restart, so you have to restart the server in these cases. So that's it. Let's create our app. So for this, type the following: python manage.py start app, and let's name it polls. You can name it whatever you want, doesn't matter. And you guys can see that a polls folder has been created, which is basically your app. So if you guys are wondering what's the difference between an app and project, so it's quite natural. An app is a web application that does something. Example, a block system, a database of public records, a small poll app. A project is a collection of configuration and apps for a particular website. A project can contain multiple apps. An app can be in multiple projects. So it's very easy once you understand it. So let's create a project. So in views.py inside our poll, so it has already imported a module called renderer, and it's asking us to create our views over here. So let's create. So create a function called index and pass a request into it. And before that, I want us to import a particular package, the Django.urls import from the Django.http import http response, like that. And I'm going to return an http response, hello world, like that. So if you save this file and come to our web side, you can see nothing has happened, and that's because we need to call this view, and to call the view we need to map it to a URL, and for this we need a URL conf. But before that, let's go to the settings.py in this polls app, scroll down and see installed apps. Let's add our app into it. Type polls, which is basically the name of our app, which we typed over here, and the same thing we type over here. And in the polls app, let's create a new file called urls.py. And this we import from the Django.urls. We import path, and from the same folder we import the views file, which is basically this file, right? Please make sure to save your files in each and every step. I forget to do that. And type create a variable called URL patterns. This is an exact word. Django will look for this variable, all small letters, no underscores. It is basically a list. And type path. So the path function takes 4 arguments, in which 2 are necessary and 2 are optional. The first one is a route, and the second one is views, and the third one is keyword arguments, and the fourth one is basically a name. So what is this route? So a route and view are necessary, and keyword arguments and name are completely optional. So route is a string that contains a URL pattern. This route. So route is a string that contains a URL pattern when processing a request. The Django starts at the first pattern in the URL patterns and make it way down the list. So we can have multiple paths in the single URL patterns, comparing the requested URL against each pattern until it finds the one that matches. Patterns don't search, get, and post parameters or a domain name. For example, if our request to https www.example.com/myapp, it will look for my app and not get and post. For example, it has a get parameter like page equals to 3. The URL conf will also look for my app, right? So that's what that was an example. And the second one is a view. When Django finds a matching pattern, it calls a specified view function with an HTTP request object as the first argument and any captured values from the root as keyword arguments. So I'll give an example to this in just a bit. And the third one is a keyword arguments. Keyword arguments is arbitrary keyword argument. So any arbitrary keyword arguments can be passed in a dictionary to the target view. We aren't going to use this feature in this Django tutorial. The fourth one is basically a name. Naming your URLs lets you refer to it unambiguously from elsewhere in Django, especially from within templates. This powerful feature allows you to make global changes to URL patterns of your project while only touching a single file. So let's type in our URLs. So our root is gonna be polls, and our view is basically gonna be views.index, and our name is gonna be index, right? And the next step is to go to the settings.py in the main polls app. The urls.py in the main Python file, and you can see to include another URL conf, we need to import include function from the Django.urls. So we import the include function and we say path polls include polls.url. Right. So the include function allows referencing other URL confs. Whenever Django encounters include, it chops off whatever part of the URL matched up to that points and sends the remaining string to the included URL conf for further processing. So as we already included the polls over here, we no longer need to refer polls over here. Right. And save all the files, and let's go to our website and go to polls and we should always use include when you include other URL patterns. Admin.site.urls is an only exception to this rule. So there we go, guys. We have successfully written our first app. See you guys in the next video.